Okay, we'll call this second meeting of the Board of Supervisors on March 31st, 2022 to order. First order of business, pledge of allegiance led by Supervisor Bramer.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll ask Amanda to do the roll call.
Ms. Bramer,
present.
Mr. Bruno,
Here.
Mr. Driscoll,
Here.
Mrs. Frazier,
Here.
Mr. Drossy,
Here.
Ms. Hogan, Mr. Dickinson,
Here.
Mr. Merlino,
Here.
Mr. Stroud, Mr. Wild,
Here.
Mr. McGowan,
Here.
Ms. Seaver,
Present.
Mr. Beatty, Mr. Thomas,
Here.
Ms. Runyon, Mr. Conover,
Here.
Mr. Leggett,
Here.
Mr. Diamond,
Here.
Mr. McDevitt.
Here.
Chairman Garrity.
Here.
Quorum is established.
Okay. First item of business to approve the minutes of the March 18th, 2022 board meeting. Subject to correction, motion by Supervisor Dickinson, second by Supervisor Drossy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Do we have anybody out in the audience or would like to make a comment to the board today? Is anybody on YouTube, Don, that would like to comment on the board meeting?
Hello, Chairman Garrity. Nothing at this point on YouTube.
All right, reports. I have nothing to add under my report from the last board meeting we have, other than I missed a few days. I was out with a pretty good head cold, but other than that, I really don't have anything to report. We'll start with Supervisor Bramer. Any committee report or any report on your ARPA?
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Drossy asked me to report on the joint committee meeting that we had with Criminal Justice and Public Safety and Facilities regarding the bike path.
Okay.
And out of that committee, we did move forward a resolution we'll see at our April board meeting to establish a pilot program. And if you'll recall that was an idea originally from last year from Supervisor Diamond to just check out how it will work for e-bikes and e-scooters on the bike path. There's a particular size class of those bicycles and scooters that can be allowed and are not considered motor vehicles. So we are going forward. We are suggesting that we go forward with that, and there will be some safety monitoring and also establishing some new signage on the bike path as part of that program. So look forward to that. And then ARPA did meet earlier this week, and we had some really great discussion about our priority areas and the money that we are going to set aside for certain things, like $1 million for a business grant program, as well as a not-for-profit grant program, another $1 million for that. So we're really looking forward to being able to assist businesses and organizations in our community. And we do have a resolution that came out for $112,000 roughly for childcare. And that will really bolster the money that we just got through the federal grant funds. So we're looking forward to that in our April meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bruno.
Yes, thank you. County Facilities met on March 22nd, and the minutes of that meeting are out, but I'll touch on a few items there. Regarding the airport, a 3-bay T-hangar has been proposed by Rich Air at the Warren County Airport, but they ran into some issues regarding wetlands, and they will change their design to include a retaining wall at the rear of the building, which will keep them out of that riverine area. Additionally, we have a request to amend the county budget to reflect an insurance recovery payment that resulted from damage to the south fence at the Warrensburg DPW. Also, get an update on the work order request program, the fleet fire request program, which are both running very well. Update on the Countryside Adult Home Project. The final estimate of cost for that is $4 million. I think it's money well spent. A utility recovery presentation was made by Glenn Campbell of ST Network. And what this does, I don't know how many of you saw that, but ST Network studies your utility bills, etc., and looks to see or find any overcharges, overpayments, that sort of thing. And if there are any recovered, they take a certain percentage of that. If there's nothing, there's no charge to the county. So we're looking at that. So after that discussion, there was a motion made to present this to purchasing agent to look into utility recovery and determine if an RFP was required for these services or if they were considered professional services and don't require that. Additionally, we talked about changes to the concrete area out front, which I think Mr. Hajos had presented sketches to, I think, everyone on the board, and still looking at that. Additionally, removal of asbestos from the old jail. An asbestos variance is required from the Department of Labor to apply flowable concrete fill in the crawl space beneath that structure to encapsulate any asbestos there. So we're pursuing that. And last, the Joseph Warren Center, the committee was advised that LaBella Associates is working on a plan to convert the former detention center building, which grant funding will be looked into for that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. This past Monday, the 28th, I was invited to participate in the mid-year department heads goals and objectives meetings. Those went very well. I was very pleased to attend. That was for the Department of Social Services and Veteran Services. Nothing to report as far as resolutions out of either of those two departments or countryside. I did participate in a Zoom meeting. I think it was our third or fourth meeting with Veteran Services regarding the peer-to-peer program. That was Tuesday afternoon, went really well, and I believe that we'll have an announcement as far as the status of that initiative within the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I will be sharing that. As is my policy, I will be sharing information from the Department of Social Services, kind of a monthly one-page fact sheet that Commissioner Hanchett sends out, and that'll probably be going out in the next week or so. Additionally, Cooperative Extension met this past Monday evening. I'll be sharing some information as soon as I get the minutes and all that type of stuff from Cooperative Extension. Supervisor Bruno was at that meeting, as well as Supervisor Runyon was on via Zoom. And also, they've got a couple of fundraisers that I've shared information with. A night at the Thunder hockey game, I believe it's next Friday, or Friday the Good Friday, the 14th or 15th, as well as their golf tournament. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Supervisor Frazier.
Thank you. Health Services met on March the 21st. It was probably the shortest meeting we've ever had. And we'll have like 2 resolutions in next month's board meeting. I too attended meetings with my health service department, public health, office of the aging, and mental health department to go over their goals and objectives, which was, I just feel it's a very valuable time to see what they have down and what they've accomplished and what they hope to accomplish. That's all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor DeRossi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, my thanks to Supervisor Bramer for chairing the joint Public Works and Public Safety meeting. The committees met on March 21st. We did move on several resolutions. Some were further acted on today by Personnel and Finance committees. Just one note of interest, Sheriff LaFar did introduce an issue about the need for increased security on the countywide campus here. So there'll be much more discussion about that. We'll be having follow-up meetings, and at some point in the near future, we'll be bringing the entire board into that issue. Thank you.
Supervisor Dixon.
Our tax met on the 21st. We gave away some of our tax money to various projects. none of them are real large, and they're all good projects. I signed the letters this morning, so that went out.
Supervisor Moreno.
On the tourism, the RFPs for a new tourism director goes up to 12. The latest I heard, tomorrow is the last day, April 1st, for people to submit, and then we'll start looking at them with the tourism team. And I'm just hoping I can get support for 168, 169, and that, so we can move on with the account clerk. Thank you.
Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Economic Growth and Development, I will provide a detailed update at our next board meeting. But I would like to mention that there's three major elements that we're all working towards. That's the planning department and employment and training, which is the workforce issues we have, the transportation issues we have, and childcare issues we have. So those are going to be a focus moving forward. Mr. Chairman, I'll update some more later, but thank you.
Supervisor McGowan.
No report, thank you.
Supervisor Seaver.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report.
Supervisor Conover.
Yes, I'll save my Public Works report for our normal monthly meeting. There was a joint meeting, of course, that was previously mentioned regarding the bike path. The Public Works Committee did move that forward for consideration by the board at large. Thank you.
Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee just got past their meeting a few minutes ago. And even though resolutions 168, 169 are on personnel, finance is the one that broke those out into the two. Want to thank Amanda and her office for being able to get these hot off the press to this meeting right now. And you will see in your packet for 167, 168, there's 168, 169, excuse me. It's more complete description of what positions they are and the amounts that are involved. Thank you.
Supervisor Diamond.
No reports. No report.
Okay, all right. And we'll go on to report of county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I point out that what was initially two resolutions for today is now three. The compensation table of organization resolution is broken up. The first resolution waives the rules in order to allow us to vote on the second two. I was not here at the March board meeting. I went on vacation. Thank you. I missed everybody. Since the February board meeting, a couple of the highlights have been March 1st. I attended the hazard mitigation kickoff meeting with Homeland Security, Soil and Water, Office for Emergency Services. This is the I don't recall how many years, but every set number of years we update that plan, and Soil and Water does the bulk of the work. So thank you to them. On March 8th and March 29th, we met with the Teamsters, who are now representing the correction officers, and we're making progress on those negotiations. And on the 11th, I met with our health insurance broker, Yeager and Flynn. They are now Marshall and Sterling. And we looked at the first couple of months of claims, and the good news is the claims so far are within budget, but it is very early, so we need some time for those to mature. That's my report.
Okay. Report of county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Concerning lawsuits against the county, I'm pleased to report there's been no new notices of claim received since the last board meeting in February. Currently, we have 10 active lawsuits against the county, and we've received no new service of process for any new lawsuits as of today's date since the last board meeting. The county has initiated one lawsuit. It's a declaratory judgment action against a former insurance company, CNA Financial. It's concerning one of the Child Victim Act cases, and we anticipate later today or tomorrow filing a second declaratory judgment action seeking coverage in another CVA case that's ongoing against the county. We've issued no formal legal opinions since the last March 18th, 2022 meeting. We have moved forward and filed a petition on March 9th, 2022 for tax foreclosure. with the county clerk's office. We're now in the process of service of process. As of today, there are 238 parcels which remain in that foreclosure action due to delinquent taxes. And today and tomorrow, my office will be moving forward with the mailings in 1,144 envelopes, which will contain copy of the petition that was filed and all necessary paperwork to put the parties with interest on notice. The Board of Ethics did meet on March 24th of 2022. The main focus of that meeting was reviewing draft standing rules of procedure for how the Ethics Board will accomplish its core tasks. And they will be reviewing those rules again at the next Board of Ethics meeting. The only other matter, I don't have any topics for executive session or to request executive session. The board has requested that Attorney Earl Redding appear before the board to discuss ongoing litigation as well as matters leading to employment, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a county employee. And specifically, the litigation would involve a county employee, Elena Morgan. There was a notice of appeal filed in the federal action since the last board meeting. As the board's aware, I am not participating or aware of the details of that action as it's being monitored by the first assistant county attorney, Robert Terwilliger, as well as the county administrator. So I would ask if the board would consider a motion to move into executive session on following reasons. One is to discuss now current litigation regarding the notice of appeal filed in federal court regarding the Morgan matter, as well as to discuss matters leading to employment, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a county employee, specifically Elena Morgan. Additionally, I would also note, though, for the board, that subject to Public Officers Law, Section 108, subparagraph 3, any matter that's made confidential by federal or state law is outside the scope of the open meetings law. Specifically, that would apply to attorney-client communications. Earl Redding is counsel that's been retained by the county attorney's office, and I would anticipate some of his comments would also include attorney-client communications to members of the board.
Okay, that being said, a motion by Supervisor Dickinson, second by Supervisor.
Kevin,
You have a
I,
question?
yes,
Oh, sorry.
I'd like to move that executive session that after we vote on the resolutions, I have to leave shortly.
Can we do that?
Not sure. Sure. That's totally.
Okay, we'll suspend the executive session until after we finish the voting on resolutions.
Thank you very much.
Reading communications,
We don't have any communications for this meeting.
reading of resolutions.
Okay, there are two resolutions. Well, there's actually three resolutions in your packet. One is waiving the rules and two are the resolutions that were just advanced by the Personnel and Finance Committees. There are also two proclamations in your packet and those will be approved in the collective vote unless roll call on either is requested. Those are for Vietnam War Veterans Day and SUNY Adirondack Community College Month. A motion is needed to waive the rules in order to entertain resolutions 168 and 169 because they were not distributed on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting as required by the rules of the board.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Diamond, second by Supervisor Dickinson to waive the rules. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Both carried. Okay, then we'll vote. Discussion on any other resolutions in front of us. Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of the outside counsel that's here and the time he spent waiting for this, I'll be very brief in my comments regarding the resolution to create a temporary principal account clerk. And as a non-member of the committee just this morning, I had asked about the job description. I've asked in advance for several weeks. Today, we were provided a draft before just a couple hours ago of a principal account clerk and speaking with the head of our civil service department. What I've learned as well is that there hasn't been an official inquiry to her from a committee chair regarding the principal account clerk part-time position, which is typically created for positions, individuals working under 20 hours. It can be. So I really want to get behind this and support this because I think that this is something that our tourism department has continued to say is a need, especially with deleting the full-time position. My concern here is that to members of our public to be able to adequately say to them what exactly the account clerk is doing different than the full-time job description. And the only thing we have is a draft of a principal account clerk, which is a full-time, recognizing, of course, she's not doing all of the work she did in a full-time position and a part-time. But we also aren't advertising for this. She's starting right away. I understand the likelihood of this passing, but I just want to put on the record that all last year, we asked for these job descriptions. I think given what a priority this was over the last 6 weeks, a draft certainly could have been circulated describing the work that the principal clerk would be doing part-time. And just to remind this board that when it started, it was out of the treasurer's office. It serves a very important function, but we also have other members in the tourism department that have taken over some of these duties. So without being able to compare it to the other job descriptions, and find where those gaps in services are and coming in at this late of an hour right before we vote, I'll be abstaining from this vote, but I did want to put that on the record. Thank you.
Any other discussion on resolution? Supervisor?
Wild.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I know it's been a long day. I just want to address both these resolutions. We all know that tourism is a major part of our economy. It's getting to the point of the season where it becomes a push because we advertise for our seasons months in advance. This is something the tourism department really needs. I'm hoping that we support this effort today to keep the tourism department at relatively full strength so that we can support that 20 to 30% or whatever it is that tourism is to our general economy, and we can keep this moving forward. So I'm for this, and I'm hoping that the rest of the board can help support this also. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. No other discussions? Oh, Supervisor John.
I'd like a roll call on 169.
They're both subject roll call. Okay, so we'll vote on resolutions.
Okay, resolution 168, amending table of organization in Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2022 to create a position within the tourism department. Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Briefly, I will reluctantly support this only because I want to see the tourism department going forward. But as I said in the previous meeting, I can't support any longer. I was the one last year that asked for descriptions so that I could tell people when they ask me, what's so-and-so doing for this amount of money? And I'm hoping that forthcoming will be a description for this temporary principal account clerk. So I will vote yes, but I will not in the future be voting to support any position, as I said before, that doesn't come with a qualified description for the responsibilities of that position, whether it's temporary, full-time, new, or what have you. Thank you.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan on now. Ms. Hogan is absent. Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Bruno. I think that's time that type of stuff come up, and I appreciate his vote, and I vote yes.
and Mr. Stroh is absent still. Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
I also agree with Supervisor Bruno and Supervisor Merlino, and I will give a yes today too. Thank you.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
and Mr. Beatty is absent. Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
The resolution passes. And resolution number 169, amending table of organization in Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2022 to delete a position within the tourism department. Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
No.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Need a collective on the.
Collective vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now we need a motion to go into executive session by Supervisor Dixon, second by Supervisor Bramer. Go into executive session, note stated.
Yes, on the second, though, I would like to note for the record, because apparently this was a problem earlier today, that we are inviting our attorney to participate and any other, if we're asking the administrator, Mr. Terwilliger, and staff, we need to put that on the record now as part of our motion, so we don't have an issue once we get into executive session.
I did specifically reference Mr. Redding as well as the first assistant county attorney in the motion. So I leave it up to the board whether they need to include the county administrator in that or not.
No, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to stay.
Okay, so we have a
Mr.
motion, we have a
Administrator.
second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll officially recuse myself. I'll be leaving the room. Ask Supervisor Leggett to take over your post.